A wealthy man wanted to go hunting in a part of northern Canada where few people had ever hunted. He traveled to a trading post and tried to find a guide to take him, but no one would do it. It was too dangerous, they said. Finally, he found a native who needed money badly, and he agreed to take him. The native's name was Defago. They made camp in the snow near a large frozen lake. For 3 days they hunted, but they had nothing to show for it. The third night, a windstorm came up. They lay in their tent, listening to the wind howling and the trees whipping back and forth. To see the storm better, the hunter opened the tent flap. What he saw startled him. There wasn't a breath of air stirring, and the trees were standing perfectly still. Yet he could hear it, the wind howling, and the more he listened, the more it sounded like it was calling Defago's name. Defago, it called. Defago. I must be losing my mind, the hunter thought. But Defago had gotten out of his sleeping bag. He had huddled in a corner of the tent, his head buried in his arms. "What's this all about?" the hunter asked. "It's nothing," Defago said. The wind continued to call him, and Defago became more tense and more restless. Defago, it called. Defago. Suddenly he jumped to his feet, and he began to run from the tent. But the hunter grabbed him and wrestled him to the ground. "You can't leave me here," the hunter shouted. And then the wind called again, and Defago broke loose and ran into the darkness. The hunter could hear him screaming as he went. Again and again he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet! My burning feet of fire!" Then his voice faded away, and the wind died down. At daybreak, the hunter followed Defago's tracks in the snow. They went through the woods, down toward the lake, and then out onto the ice. But soon he noticed something strange. The steps Defago had taken got longer and longer. They were so long no human could have taken them. It was as if something had helped him to hurry away. The hunter followed the tracks out to the middle of the lake. At first he thought that Defago had fallen through the ice, but there wasn't a hole. Then he thought that something had pulled him off the ice into the sky, but that made no sense. As he stood wondering what had happened, the wind picked up again. Soon it was howling as it had the night before. Then he heard Defago's voice. It was coming from above. And again he heard Defago screaming, "My fiery feet! My burning feet!" But there was nothing to be seen. Now the hunter wanted to leave that place as fast as he could. He went back to camp and packed. Then he left some food for Defago, and he started out. Weeks later he reached civilization. The following year he went back to hunt in that area again. He went to the same trading post to look for a guide. The people there could not explain what had happened to Defago that night, but they had not seen him since then. "Maybe it was the Wendigo," one of them said. He laughed. "It's supposed to come with the wind. It drags you along at great speed until your feet are burned away, and more of you than that. Then it carries you into the sky and drops you. It's just a crazy story, but that's what some of the natives say." A few days later, the hunter was at the trading post again. A native came in and sat by the fire. He had a blanket wrapped around him, and he wore his hat so that you couldn't see his face. The hunter thought there was something familiar about him. He walked over and he asked, "Are you Defago?" The native didn't answer. "Do you know anything about him?" No answer. He began to wonder if something was wrong. The man needed help, but he couldn't see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. To get a look at him, he lifted the native's hat. Then he screamed. There was nothing under the hat but a pile of ashes. Thank you all so much for swinging on by and listening to the story of the Wendigo from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This is a bit different than the usual kind of content that I do, but I've been told that people really enjoy listening to my voice, and I thought it would be interesting to maybe read different kind of horror stories, or perhaps just stories in general, for future context. Any people that want to suggest stories to be read, they don't necessarily have to be horror, but the first ones that I was going to do if I did continue doing this was mostly going to be horror stories that I remember personally reading. This is a short story in the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I believe it is based off of the longer novella of The Wendigo by Algernon Blackwood, I believe is how you pronounce that. Apologies if I haven't pronounced that correctly. Overall, though, it was just a neat little concept. I will be posting this along with normal videos, so this is entirely extra. And if more people enjoy it, then of course, I might do more of these added on, tacked on. But yes, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed. This one's probably going to be a little crunchy, being the first. There's probably going to be a few things that I want to add, change for future ones, but I'm curious to hear other people's opinions and see how this does for everyone on the channel. So hopefully I see you all in the next one.